Everything had started like an ordinary day, or at least that's what I thought. As I stood by the coffee machine in the kitchen, I looked out the window. Yellowed leaves had gathered in the corners of the garden. The wind swept them from place to place, but they never truly settled anywhere. At that moment, I felt a stir inside me. Was I the same? Had the years tossed me around without taking me anywhere? Dusty walked into the kitchen. Without saying a word, he took his coffee, folded his newspaper, and sat in his usual chair. Not even a greeting. We didn't even make eye contact. How many years had it been like this? When had we accepted that our daily rituals had become the only truth of our relationship? I picked up my coffee cup and perched on the edge of the kitchen table. My thoughts were heavy. Mornings used to be different. Dusty would smile at me, say something, brush past me with a small touch on my shoulder. Now, there was only silence. A cold, bone-deep silence. I looked at him. His face was the same as always, a face I had memorized over the years. But inside me there was a stir, a discomfort. I wanted to shake him, to tell him I was here. But I knew. He wouldn't hear. He wouldn't see. Because even I no longer saw myself. "I'm going out for a bit," I said, hoping to get some kind of reaction. Dusty didn't even lift his head from the newspaper. "Okay," he simply said. He didn't care about me. He had gotten used to me. He was a man who lived knowing I was there, without thinking, without questioning. I used to think that was a kind of comfort, but now it was a prison. A restless unease swelled inside me. I had to leave. I needed to find a place where I could breathe. I grabbed my coat and walked out the door. When the cold air hit my face, I felt a strange sense of relief. But I wasn't cold. This was an awakening. I got into the car. I had nowhere to go. I was ready to follow wherever the road led me. I started the engine, gripped the steering wheel, and began to drive. The roads were familiar, yet they looked entirely different. I had changed. I drove like that for minutes, if not hours. But then, the engine shuddered once, then again. The steering wheel grew heavy, and then it died completely. "Damn it," I whispered. I pulled the car over to the side, tried to start the engine again, but nothing. I took out my phone. No signal. Just then, the sound of an approaching engine caught my attention. A low hum, then a slowing whir. I looked in the rearview mirror. A dark-colored, large truck. It pulled up beside me, moving slowly. The door opened, and then I saw him. Something stirred inside me, something I couldn't define. Was it curiosity, fear, or was it a feeling long buried, now awakening? For the first time in a long time, something inside me showed signs of life. At first, I wasn't sure what caught my attention the most. His height, the broadness of his shoulders, or the way he moved, confident yet relaxed. His eyes were somewhere between caramel and gold. Deep, tired, yet strangely full of life. His shirt, slightly dirty and stained with oil, clung to his body, outlining the faint ridges of his muscles. As his arm flexed slightly, the veins on his wrists became more defined. His hands, strong but not rough, looked like they had been fixing things for years. They say a man's hands tell his story. His told a lot. "Looks like someone needs a hand." His voice, it was calm, assured but not arrogant. He spoke with a softness that carried weight, as if he already knew how I would respond to every word. A faint smile played at the corner of his lips. That smile? Was it dangerous? Or was it just an instinctive warmth? As I looked at him, a strange feeling rose inside me, hard to define but too strong to ignore. He was a stranger, and he was young, so very young, but somehow, this moment didn't feel wrong at all. On the contrary, I felt more alive than I had in years. The young man took a few steps toward me, There was no rush in his movements, but he wasn't indifferent either. His attention was on me, completely. When had it become so rare for a woman to feel truly seen? For a moment, I didn't know what to say. I hadn't felt this way in years. I hadn't felt truly seen by someone in so long. People usually guessed my age and spoke to me accordingly. Polite but distant, respectful but cold. But he wasn't like that. His gaze wasn't judgmental. He wasn't questioning me. He was simply curious. "Yes, I guess so," I said, clearing my throat. I had to stop myself from letting my voice tremble. At that moment, I realized I was thinking about how I looked in front of a stranger for the first time in years. I quickly ran a hand through my hair, smoothing it back. My fingers unconsciously adjusted my collar, brushed lightly against my wrist. A strange excitement stirred inside me. Unnecessary, maybe, but undeniable. That was when I knew I was feeling like a woman again. The young man tilted his head slightly, then moved toward the front of my car. "Can you pop the hood?" he asked, patting his pocket as if searching for a tool. I just nodded, reached for the driver's side latch, and pulled it. The hood released with a heavy clunk. He bent down, peering inside the engine. And I was looking at him. His muscles tensed subtly as he worked. His hands moved over the metal with light but deliberate movements. He moved with such confidence, as if the engine had a language, and he could understand it. His hands were large and strong, yet his touch was precise, precision and strength. What a strange combination. He knew what he was doing. He adjusted something, then shook his head slightly. "Looks like your alternator is acting up," he said, turning to face me. "You're lucky. It didn't completely drain your battery." When he smiled, a faint dimple appeared in his cheek, and his eyes shone with a warm light. Was I lucky? I didn't know, but at that moment I felt awake. "I'm not that lucky," I replied with a small smile, and somehow it wasn't just about the car. "At least I don't feel very lucky today." And then something happened. For a few seconds, he wasn't just a man fixing my car. There was something in his gaze, curiosity, interest, or maybe just the intuition of a stranger trying to read me. But in that moment, something flickered between us, silent but undeniable. And suddenly a thought formed inside me. This encounter wouldn't be just an ordinary roadside repair. "Do you live around here?" he asked. I shook my head. Number A, bit farther away. Honestly, I didn't even know exactly where I was going. I was being honest, and that sentence, it was one of the most truthful things I had said in years. I didn't know where I was going, and it wasn't just about the road. It was something deeper, heavier. For years I had been walking without seeing the crossroads in my own life. But now I was in a moment of pause, and he was standing right in front of me. The young man hesitated for a moment, then pulled a greasy rag from his pocket and began wiping his hands. His movements were calm, but I could tell he was thinking about something. His eyes narrowed slightly, his breath deepening between his lips. "I can accompany you to wherever you're headed," he said simply. "But first, I'll try to get the car running so I can help you out." Did he just offer to take me somewhere? For a moment the thought sparked something inside me. Was it to return home where Dusty was waiting? Or was it to stay just a little longer? As I watched him work on the engine, something I had tried to suppress began to stir within me. This feeling, it was like the rekindling of a fire that had long since burned out. Standing there in front of a stranger, watching his strong hands move effortlessly between the engine's parts, I realized something. Time had cast an illusion over me. He was still young, still full of life. And me? For years I had looked into the mirror without really seeing myself, only the traces time had left on me. But now, standing next to him, I felt myself again. "All right," he said, rolling his shoulders as he turned back to me. "Now, I want you to give it a try." Snapping out of my thoughts, I slid into the driver's seat. I turned the key. The engine coughed stubbornly, then groaned before finally coming to life. He seemed pleased to see it work. That quiet pride men carry after a job well done settled over him. He crossed his arms, his eyes locking onto mine. "It'll hold up for the ride," he said, "but if you want a proper fix, you'll need to get it looked at soon." He said it like he knew I didn't really want to leave. It's best to take care of the problem before it turns into something bigger. I looked away. That wasn't the real problem. The real problem was that I didn't know if I wanted to leave. And then, without thinking, my lips formed a question. "How long have you been doing this?" Hearing my own voice surprised me. Why did I ask that? My car was running. I had gotten help. I should be going. But I wanted to stay. The young man tilted his head slightly, chuckling. His laugh was soft, but something about it caught me. "Grew up in my dad's garage," he said. "I've always loved working on engines." His gaze held mine, searching, as if he was trying to understand what was going on inside me. He saw me, really saw me. But that question, it's not really about the car, is it? I swallowed. Something stirred inside me, something dangerous. "I don't know," I admitted honestly. He looked surprised but not displeased. The corner of his lips curled up slightly. "Would you like to have a coffee with me?" he asked suddenly. My heart nearly stopped. For a moment, I considered what this offer really meant. My husband was at home. He was making dinner for me. We would sit at the same table, listening to the same stories. But here was an opportunity, dangerous, but enticing. "I don't know," I whispered again. His eyes held mine, and in that moment, time stood still. "I think you do." His words hung in the air. Should I take it as a simple offer? A gesture of kindness? Or was there something else hidden within it? I swallowed hard, forcing myself not to look away. But the truth was, it wasn't him I wanted to escape from. It was myself. The contradictions echoing inside me had pinned me to the spot. "A coffee," I repeated, almost as if I were asking myself. He shrugged slightly. His posture was relaxed, but his eyes told a different story. "Yes, a coffee. Just two people sitting down and talking. What could you possibly have to hide from a stranger?" A shiver ran through me. Because he was wrong. You tell strangers your deepest secrets because they are not chained to your past. And in that moment, I realized maybe that was exactly why I wanted to be here. I took a deep breath, my lips curving into a faint, involuntary smile. Was admitting that I wanted this a betrayal of myself? I don't know, maybe just a coffee, maybe just a few minutes. His eyes locked onto mine, searching, trying to figure out what was there. But perhaps the most terrifying thing was this. The more he understood me, the more I began to understand myself. And that was when I knew this night would not be an ordinary night. We got into the car. Where we were going didn't matter. The real journey had already begun inside me. As the soft hum of the engine filled the silence, I tried to suppress the contradictions rising within me. I should go, shouldn't I? I should turn back home. But my body didn't move. If I truly wanted to leave, why was I still here? I glanced at him from the corner of my eye. He sat beside me, quiet, his hands resting loosely on the wheel, his gaze fixed on the road ahead. I didn't know what he was thinking, but I could feel it. He was waiting for me to make a decision. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. The silence tightened around me, pressing against the thoughts colliding in my mind. Dusty's presence, my past, the blurred lines between right and wrong, they all tangled together. At last, I took a deep breath. I placed my hands lightly on my lap and turned to face him. "Just drive," I said. I didn't want to know where we were going. He turned to me, a question flickering in his eyes. But he didn't ask. Instead, the corner of his lips lifted into the faintest smile. Then, shifting gears, he pressed the gas. I watched as the city lights faded into the distance. The road was empty. We were disappearing into the night. I glanced out the window, street lights dissolving into darkness, mirroring the chaos inside me. "Have you ever done something like this before?" he asked, his voice soft, but laced with curiosity. I turned to him. I didn't know how to answer. What could I say? "I don't know what I'm doing," I admitted, because truly I didn't. He smiled. "I do." Something inside me trembled. He didn't know me, and yet, in that moment, I felt more transparent beside him than I ever had before. I inhaled deeply, tucking my hands beneath my arms. He kept driving, never taking his hands off the wheel. Where was he taking us? But that wasn't the real question. Where did I want to go? He turned onto a quiet, deserted road near a gas station. The engine hummed for a second longer before he shut it off. Then he turned to me. There was something unspoken in his gaze. He was reading me. "Do you want to go home?" he asked. I swallowed. Should I feel like I was doing something wrong? But right now, every fiber of my being wanted to listen to that whisper growing inside me. "I don't know," I whispered. My voice was so quiet it almost dissolved into the night. But he heard it, and he understood. His hand rested on the steering wheel as his eyes locked onto mine. He was waiting, leaving the choice to me. And in that moment, everything inside me went silent. The noise, the chaos, the questions, all of it stopped. All I could hear was his breathing. Slowly, I reached out, my fingers brushing over the hand he had resting on the wheel. The moment our skin touched, a wave of electricity surged through me. His eyes bore into mine. We knew what was happening, but neither of us said it. Neither of us admitted it. In the silence, he slowly leaned in. And for the first time in years, I felt like I was truly living. We drove a little further before he finally stopped the car. I looked around. It was quiet, secluded, somewhere on the outskirts of town. As I stepped out, a soft breeze caressed my skin. In front of me stood a small hidden cottage. "This is it?" I asked. "This is it," he said, opening the door, "one of my secret hideaways." I hesitated. If I stepped inside, this night would take a different course. But at the same time, something deep inside me swelled with curiosity. And so, at last, I crossed the threshold. Behind me, the door slowly clicked shut. As I stepped inside, the air was still but warm. In the dim light of the room, the young man turned to me and locked his eyes onto mine. At that moment, I knew there was no turning back. He took a few steps forward, then stopped. The space between us buzzed with tension. My hands fidgeted restlessly at my sides, but I couldn't move. He came closer. He was so near now that I could feel his warm breath against my skin. How long had it been since I had felt this kind of proximity? With a fleeting moment of courage, I lifted my head and met his gaze. There was a silent challenge in his eyes. He was waiting for me to decide. And I did. At first, it was light, almost nothing more than a touch. Our lips met, brushing against each other. But it was only the beginning. Slowly, we explored each other. Cautious at first, then bolder, more open. His hands cupped my face. His fingers traced invisible lines over my skin as his lips trailed down to my neck. My entire body trembled like a storm awakening. I should have pulled away, but I didn't want to. I was losing myself in a desire I hadn't felt in years. My hands, without thinking, wrapped around his waist. His eyes burned into mine, filled with curiosity and fire. Between whispers, we fell deeper into each other. Every touch revived something time had taken from me. That night, every boundary time had placed upon us disappeared. It was just him and me, and for the first time I understood what it meant to truly feel. Our breaths mingled, his fingers leaving invisible trails on my skin. At first he was careful, but soon the hunger inside him became undeniable. My hands instinctively moved to his chest, tracing the contours of his muscles. And in that moment, something inside me shattered. He slowly pulled me back, my spine pressing against the wooden table. His hands continued their exploration as I closed my eyes, feeling every touch sink deep into me. This wasn't just a moment of closeness. This was the release of everything I had buried inside for years. Our hands locked together tightly. His lips moved from my neck to my shoulder, and my breath came faster. There were no more barriers. One by one, our clothes fell away and the distance between us vanished completely. In that moment, we were the only two people in the world. When he lifted me and carried me to the bed, our bodies became one. His eyes never left mine, his movements both passionate and sure. I felt him in every part of me, with every touch. Warmth spread through me, reigniting something long forgotten. As the night stretched on, we lost ourselves completely. Wrapped in whispers, we held each other, savoring every second. This wasn't just a fleeting pleasure. This was the return of something that had been taken from me. And in the end, as our heartbeats settled, I silently held on to him. He ran his fingers through my hair and pressed his lips gently against my forehead. Everything had changed. As I opened my eyes, he was still there beside me, his arms wrapped around my waist, his breath warm against my neck. For a few seconds, I questioned if this moment was real. It was. But now, what would happen? Slowly, I sat up. My bare skin still carried his warmth. Throughout the night, the walls between us had crumbled. But now, morning had arrived, bringing reality with it. Dusty, my home, who I was. I stood up and began gathering my clothes from the floor. He stirred, opened his eyes, and watched me. I knew he wouldn't say anything. He didn't need to. "I have to go," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. He remained silent for a moment. Then he nodded slightly, running a hand through his hair. "I know," was all he said, but the way he said it, was this just one night, or was it a beginning? I didn't know either. But the only thing I was sure of was that as I returned home, I felt like a completely different woman. When I arrived, Dusty was still asleep. I quietly opened the door and stepped inside. The cold from the night still clung to my skin, but inside me, another fire continued to burn. As my bare feet touched the cold floor, the only thing echoing within me were the traces of the night I had spent. My body was here, but my mind was still lost on that deserted road, in that car, in the moments I had felt his hands on me. I walked into the living room. His scent still lingered on me. I took a deep breath, but a weight pressed against my chest. Was this regret? Or was it the intoxication of emotions I had forgotten how to feel? I felt warmth spread across my face. A part of me told me to think about the consequences of what I had done, but another part of me knew this was only the beginning. This night had changed me, and there was no turning back. I turned toward the bathroom. I looked at myself in the mirror. My reflection felt unfamiliar. My hair was a mess. My skin still carried the traces of what I had felt. But what struck me the most was the glow in my eyes. I wasn't looking at myself the way I used to. The tired, dulled woman was gone. In her place stood someone with a hidden fire burning inside. "Is this me?" I whispered. But I didn't wait for an answer, because I already knew. Before this night, I had forgotten who I was. I heard footsteps from the kitchen. Dusty had woken up. Taking a deep breath, I gathered myself and walked toward the kitchen. When he saw me, he smiled as he always did. That smile, the one that had once warmed me, but now barely made me feel anything at all. "You're up early," he said. The warmth in his eyes unsettled me for the first time in a long time. He was looking at me, but he didn't see what was there. He couldn't see the change spilling out of me. He studied my face carefully, but he didn't ask anything. He didn't question me, because Dusty believed everything was the same. I looked at him, but inside there was an emptiness. Something was growing within me, something he would never be able to touch. The man who had once made me tremble with just his touch now felt like nothing more than someone standing beside me, someone who couldn't see the woman awakening inside me. He took his coffee, sat at the table, and opened his newspaper. Last night, my life had changed, but in his world, nothing had changed at all. I watched him for a while, silently, just observing. He started talking to me like he always did, about work, the neighbors, ordinary things. But I wasn't hearing his words. I was only hearing his voice, because now I was questioning whether I still belonged here. I had changed, and Dusty didn't know it, but I knew, and the moment I realized that, I started to feel like a stranger in my own home.